things. Like I feel myself like almost like getting to the place of depression again. And I thought I was over that, you know? Welcome back to She Cultivates podcast. My name is Liz Savillon, and thank you for joining me on another episode. Here we talk about all things cultivating our best selves and community. And for this month, for Mental Health Awareness Month, we are talking about cultivating our best selves when it comes to our mental health, being in tune with ourselves. And on this week, we have a mental health counselor, which she is also a mentor and a friend. And we'll be talking about things we wish we would have learned or known in our early stages of our mental health journey and healing. I know that I get a lot of questions about kind of how, wow, like the work that you've done now, but it has taken years to unlearn and find new ways to do things. And it has been a process. And I know when we had the live podcast in February with Maria, that's what I was saying. I was like, she's seen me through like different stages, you know, of my evolution. And I think sometimes people think that healing is just such a up and up, you know, but it's not always that way. And so we just want to be a space. We're going to have a conversation about things that we wish we would have learned. Hopefully you can take some takeaways. You can reflect on that. And so thank you again, Maria, for joining me on this week's podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I love having you here virtually, and you are someone that has helped me through my journey. And I've had multiple episodes with you when it comes to mental health. But right now, when I think about when I first started, I remember seeing kind of like the healing or the mental health as a huge stigma because I came from a Latino background. So I was the first one in my family to do therapy. Now, my friends, my family, and everyone have been in therapy, and I'm so grateful for that. But in the beginning, it was always seen as like, unless you have a big trauma, that is the reason why you go to therapy. And I wish I would have learned or knew that we all have big T and little t traumas, and we aren't usually told or supported in the way that we're handling those things that happen to us. So maybe you moved a lot growing up, or you were bullied, or maybe you went through a car accident that was very tragic, or a storm that was really hard, or you went through a breakup, or you went through other sexual trauma or things like that. And that way it can show up in our life in different ways. And so that's something that I know with you, I kind of walk through of like, well, it's because of this trauma. And it was like, well, there's multiple things that we all go through. And you don't have to be someone that has mental health, maybe as we see it, like mental health illness, to be considered someone that can benefit from mental health. So for you, what are things maybe in the beginning that you saw within yourself of stigmas that you had about mental health?
Well, it was really young because remember, I come from a family where my brother, after me, was probably born on the spectrum. But back in the 60s and the 70s, nobody knew what that was. And they didn't do a good job of diagnosing my brother. He was in and out of psych wards. So we were terrified of anything that had to do with mental health or counseling. Needless to say, we all needed it because when you grow up in that kind of environment with that much trauma, so having a brother that was diagnosed bipolar schizophrenic, but we didn't know what that was. All we saw was chaos in the house. And I remember it was such a struggle. There was a stigma even in the church that was demons. This is what's going on. So in that generation, in that time, there was a lot of stigma. And it hurt me a lot because coming from a situation of childhood abuse, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that why do I have so much anxiety? We talk a lot about that now, but before, you're just anxious, just deal with it. We didn't even have the language to describe what it was that we were feeling. Now it is becoming more accepted, but we still have a lot of people that don't understand their stories, don't understand what they're going through. So everything is normal. Oh, it's normal. Everything is normalized. It's not okay though. You're not healthy. You're not living a full life. But you don't know what you don't understand, and you don't know what you don't take time to work through.
So for you, when you went to therapy for the first time, was it because you were going through something really hard? Like, was it more like, what was happening during that time that made you actually be like,
I was definitely I was going through really, really severe depression. But I just figured I was tired. But it was pretty severe. When you go to bed on Friday and you don't wake up till Monday, you don't see anybody. I was withdrawing from everyone. And my first therapist, I call her my trauma nurturing therapist. So she was very nurturing and she gave me a lot of education where I didn't feel like I was crazy. I felt like, oh my God, everything that I'm going through, there's a reason for this. And it gave me a lot of hope.
and that's the important part. I think what I wish I would have learned too is like how hopeful it is. It's not because I think some people think also with therapy, it's like, oh, that's like if you're soft or you're not really like strong mentally, like that's why you would go. Like, but I feel like that was such a great way to actually see how strong I am because of what I've been through and to understand that I'm capable to get out of this. Like, because I've been through a lot, just like how most of us have. It's like I'm able to if I have the right tools. So it's like I was given the right tools that I can apply to become a healthier version of myself, and to have that language, like to be able to understand like how you're saying of wow, like this is not normal. Like this is actually what's happening. And this is actually when it started. And this is actually why I am the way that I am. And it's not an excuse. It's more an explanation to understand my story. And so that was like validating, but it also was helpful to know it's like therapy doesn't enable unless I think there are people that can use it to enable their behavior or like they're always constantly in therapy for validation. But I feel like for me, it was more, how can I learn these things and apply them and make sure that I'm not here again, like I'm not here in the same place again. Have you had to go through that with yourself through your therapy time?
Healthy people, healthy people do self-evaluation and can go and ask for help. Hard people, people with big egos, and a lot of narcissistic people, they don't need any of that. Hence,
Why they never
why?
get diagnosed.
Yes, because they don't need it because there's nothing wrong with that. And when you look at mental health, at going to counseling is about caring for yourself. So we go every year and we get physicals. We get our blood checked. We make sure that our levels are all okay. We have a primary care doctor that takes care of our physical needs. Why would we not have a therapist that we have that therapeutic bond with to take some time out and say, I need to work through this stuff. I want to have a healthier life. It's not always to go because you're going through depression or you're going through anxiety. Sometimes it's, I've been kind of noticing I'm struggling with some stuff, or maybe I'm going into a new relationship and I'm questioning, should I do this? Is this healthy? And it's amazing to go and sit with someone who's professionally trained to help you navigate your story.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've gone to therapy through different seasons, of my life, and it has been helpful in different ways, and I think also something that I wish I would have like kind of seen at the moment because, it's like all the work that you're doing now is not going to be seen now. It's going to be seen like 2 to 3 years down the line. And I remember with you, I would always tell you like, oh, I wish I like can like microwave this process, like this is so hard, like feeling and like talking about it and like going, like remembering things, like, but it's a part and a process like for long-term, like good results. It's like it's the work that you do today, and it's the hard work, and I feel like a lot of people aren't willing to do the hard work on themselves. Like they're willing to, right, like do the hard work for your job, like for financial, but when it comes to yourself, like you put yourself last and you're like, no, like I'm not worth, that's just too much money, or that's I don't have time for that. But you are your best return on investment. Like when you are whole and you are healed and you are healthy, like you can be that in all avenues of life, like in all ways, and not a perfect person because there's none, but you can be a better person, for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for everything.
It reminded me, I was at an event and I was speaking to this very, very wealthy man. He's very wealthy. And we were just chatting, and I told him, my heart is heavy for people that are just appear to be so successful, like wealthy in life and bankrupt in relationships. And as we kept talking, he kind of looked at me and smiled, and he goes, "Yeah, I wish I would have known about that." He said, "I'm a very wealthy man. I have no family. I didn't manage my relationships appropriately. And now everyone sees me and I'm so successful, but I'm also very alone. And this is not where I want it to be." So it's a balance of learning. One of the hardest things that we will do is be in a relationship and have a healthy family and deal with the past of whatever happened to us as we were growing up and making peace with that. But it doesn't go away because you avoid it. It repeats itself.
Yeah, and unless you deal with it, I think that, I mean, in the past few months I've been tested in, relationships and new dynamics, and like you have, like it's always fun when you're just doing life by yourself, like, and you're like isolating from everybody. But like when you have friendships, when you have dynamics in work, when you have a relationship, like all the stuff comes up, and that's the ultimate test to see, will you apply the things that because that's, you aren't challenged in those areas when it's just you, but like those hard conversations, those navigating conflict with people that you love, like that will be the things that matter at the end of life, right? Because that's when you have all the things, but it's like the people, the relationships, like that's what's going
Absolutely.
to matter.
So you go out with someone and then you're hurt in relationship. Well, we get hurt in relationship, but we also heal in relationship. Now, for some of us in relationship, we're so hurt, we just decide we're not going to do this anymore. And you end up closing yourself off, and that's very lonely. But then when you start relationships, there's a lot of fear. And those are things for us to work through because we're created to be in a relationship. Who doesn't want to be loved?
We all want that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's something else that for you was took some time to learn within, like that you wish you would have learned before about your mental health journey?
Um, I wish I would have understood, oh gosh, that it's okay to it's okay to feel the pain and it's not going to kill me. To not run away from it. If I would have learned that a lot sooner, I would have gone to therapy a lot sooner and avoided all the running and all the unhealthy ways that I was trying to self medicate and soothe when it was really, I needed to feel what I needed to feel. And also, something that's really important is when you do start therapy and you're coming in perhaps with a lot of trauma, it does feel worse before it gets better. But isn't that so of any treatment, even physically? I'm going to give you, you go to the doctor, you don't feel well, he gives you something, you're like, for the love of God, this is making me worse. But
Yes.
then eventually it starts to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
break a bone, you got to set it. There's a lot of pain while that bone is healing, but it heals.
I I know that like to feel like right like for a lot of people it's like you don't want to deal with that, but it's like then after when you feel things, because now I have experienced certain maybe challenges or hurts that maybe in the past I would have reacted differently to, and they don't like it's like they don't take me out, like I just get back up. And
Yes.
so it's kind of like you build a resilience and a way to like cope in a healthier way, that
Yes.
you're able to like get, like, all right, that's a challenge. Or like maybe in the past I would have handled that differently. Like, so I'm proud of myself, like you're able to just navigate things when you are aware of that. And just kind of in our previous episode where we talked about feeling, like feeling the things, like sitting with yourself. And something I also wish I would have learned earlier was that you might be a disruptor in maybe your family or in other people as you do the work. And I think in the beginning, I kind of thought like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. So this is going to be easy because I'm doing the right thing. So everyone around me is going to be like, supportive of of the healing work. But no, you start seeing things of how they really are. And it's very painful because you grieve certain relationships, you lose certain relationships, you have to set certain boundaries that maybe before you did not. And now you're seen as like the I don't know, black sheep, really. You're seen as like the person that's causing problems. And so I wish I would have known at the time that even though that was going to happen and that was going to be hard, it needed to happen so that I can become who like I needed to be, and I needed to have those boundaries and have those things. And it doesn't mean that I'm making the wrong choice. It's actually because I'm making the right choice to do the work and set those boundaries and like find my voice, that things are going to get harder before they get better. But to like keep going, to not see that as a way that I'm doing something wrong by setting those boundaries or speaking up for myself that maybe I never did before.
One of the hardest things when there's a lot of trauma that we will do is to break intergenerational trauma. And I'll give you an example. So, I was sexually abused as a child. When I came out, when I told my family, when this is all that had happened, I was the one that was wrong. I was the one that was breaking up the family. I was the one that was hurting everyone. Why did I bring that up? Why did I talk about that? And you're right. For a while, I was like, man, I would have been better off just staying quiet. But, but I knew that no one was going to allow any more for their children to be around this person. I knew that this was not okay anymore. And no, the women in my family were no longer going to continue to accept and normalize being abused as a child. And any pedophile in the family was going to be outed. But being courageous and doing that is a part of the process.
And stepping out and sometimes feeling like you're doing the right thing, but you're getting consequences for doing the right thing, of like
Yeah.
isolation or people like not wanting to talk to you because of that. Because I've had similar things in my family dynamics where it's like I am the disruptor in my family. Like I'm the one that's like, that is not okay. Actually, no, don't. I don't feel comfortable with that. Before, right? Like my family loved them, but we were never taught how to bring things up, like how to have healthy conflict. So that's something as an adult I've had to learn to do, which I know maybe someone listening relates to that, of having to navigate when you're like, it's like a funny thing on social media. It's like when you try to tell your parents, like, I'm going to set boundaries with you. And they're like, what? Like, shut up. like just go, like they're just not listening. Like they're not registering that. Or like, you did this, and like which is fine. They're a different generation, and all that, but you can do the work for yourself. You can do the work for your future generations. And so that's kind of the goal. And the boundaries that you set are for you, not for other people. It's for yourself. And so that's always something that can bring up challenges, but it's also freeing once you do find your voice and you do find like the clarity that you need.
Setting boundaries, learning to set boundaries and evaluating and having healthier relationships is really not based on getting the permission of your family. It's, this is as far as you're going to go, and these are the consequences. So no, this it's very black and white. It's not, you don't move it. If you move it, it's not a boundary, it's a request. And believe it or not, eventually people start to figure out that you are not going to tolerate that kind of behavior.
Yeah, and they either adjust or they continue on their way.
Yes. And you have to be strong enough to be willing to let the relationship go.
Yeah. So there's some loss that comes in your healing process, and
Yes,
that's okay.
absolutely.
And some
Hmm.
grief and joy that coexist within that as you're getting better, but then you're seeing things that maybe are different, like certain family dynamics that before you were very close to, and then you're like, oh, well, no, I'm actually not close to them again, after that, after you start doing the work.
Yes.
But the healing is always worth it. And the journey of that, it it is something that takes time too, just like as it took time for you to get there. It's also going to take you time to feel better. So it's like in time you will come out of that, you will learn the healthy things. And you're also, I think I talked to you about this last year because I went through kind of like a spiral in the summer. I was going through just a lot of family dynamics which were very hard, and I felt a lot of pressure on myself, like mentally, emotionally. I feel like I kind of had to like put a facade, and I hated that feeling. Like I felt like I'd had to go, go, go. And then it was like, but I felt like a lot of anxiety, and I think I told you, I was like, I feel like I'm like going back. Like I'm now getting faced with similar things. Like I feel myself like almost like getting to the place of depression again. And I thought I was over that, and I thought I would never have to face that again. And so I remember being frustrated with myself, but it's like the reality is, it's like, it's not that it's ever gonna just like go away for like, you're never gonna face hard times again with your mental health. You're never gonna face hard challenges. It's just that you're gonna know, maybe like you're gonna know the tools and maybe how to navigate that in a different way. But it doesn't mean that you haven't done the work within that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a different season in my life. I'm now, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm in my 60s. And I go through these periods of I have less time to live than more time to live. I know that sounds weird, but and I start looking at life much differently. I am much more sensitive about certain things than I used to be. I am definitely, I know who I am and very sure of those things. But I lost my mom a few years ago, and I had no idea how how much that was going to affect me. And you have aging parents, or people go through a lot of stuff. You want to have a child, and you lose the pregnancy, and you don't. It's part of life, but at the same time, we go through experiences that sometimes we're not going to know until we're there. I like that. I think one of the things that have helped me in all the mental health stuff, okay, and I am a therapist, but I've sat on the other side for a really long time before I got into this. And I remember what helped me the most was to be able to have a vocabulary and a way of checking myself when I started to feel things are not just right. Like to be able to even, what am I feeling? And be able to be able to describe that. How old do I feel? Is this something from my past? Is this something new? And how do I want to stabilize myself? And that's asking my taking the time to ask myself those questions has been such an amazing process in my life to be able to kind of sit back and sort of have my little therapist within the therapist.
Yeah, and that's helpful for someone listening to be like, what are the things that I can do to, self-regulate, self-assess, within that. And so yeah, so I know for this month, right, as we're wrapping up for Mental Health Awareness Month, like I think that is something that there's so many topics and just information out there and education, but it is worth doing the work, for yourself. It is worth looking into it and even being curious about it. Maybe you're at the place where you're like, I've never thought about it until now. It's like, maybe this is your sign. And I was talking to a friend a few weeks ago about that it's always going to be your choice, right? The work that you do within yourself, and you're the only one that can do that. But there are so many people that are supportive of the work that you do and that will be alongside you and that do want to be alongside you in the journey of that. Like I've walked my friends through certain situations that they've also met with their counselor, and we walked together through things, and just seeing them on the other side of things where it's like, wow, like, how much you've grown or how much you've progressed or how much better you're handling that. It's not that the problem goes away, but you're handling it in a different way. So there is hope, for someone listening. So as we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to say, Maria?
Well, I think in lieu of this is a mental health month, uh, I encourage everybody, take care of yourself. Don't be okay with being unhappy. Don't be okay with having so much anxiety that you're closing everyone off. Don't be okay being stuck in grief. Don't be like okay not living your best life. Get some help. There's um, there's a lot of people out here that I do what I do because I genuinely, care about people. And I know it's a very sacred space. It's really an honor for people to put that level of trust. But I just really recommend that you just take the time to care for yourself.
You matter and your mental health matters. So definitely thank you so much, Maria, for joining me on another episode. It's always nice talking with you and just getting insights, and just as someone that if you're listening and you resonated with something, or you're like, wow, I've always been curious, or I'm on the early stages of my journey, keep going. Do not give up. Do not give up on yourself, and believe that there are better days yet to come. And so thank you guys so much for joining us on this week's podcast episodes. As always, you can tag us on social media, share it with a friend, and I will see you guys next week.